My name's Evan Ortlieb, and I am the Dean of the Zucker Family School of Education at the Citadel. As you know, a lot of people are thinking about, do I want to become a dean? Do I want to stay at the department chair level? Do I just want to be a faculty member for the rest of my tenure in higher education? A lot of these are points of consideration for many, many folks. And some of those same questions I, of course, thought about before assuming this particular role that I was blessed in becoming and joining part of the Citadel about 9 months ago or so. And so I'm going to share a few of the learnings that I've experienced over my short tenure as dean. So what the dean role really constitutes is a much more visionary, a more entrepreneurial vibe to it. And I think it's a position that allows you to be in the weeds to the degree with which you seek. So certain times I'm going to be nitty gritty at the course or the class level, if you will. Much more I'm going to be at the programmatic and or school level and dealing with initiatives in those spaces. So one of the things that I think is very opportunistic is being able to chart your own path. So for our Zucker Family School of Education, we have a number of different initiatives and annual goals that we're seeking right now that I was able to co-create and sort of head up that process. So I think you have to be a big picture kind of person and keep that perspective to be a successful dean. So whether, again, it be strategic initiatives or fundraising or goal setting or accreditation matters, all of these tenets compromise what academic leadership looks like at the school or the college level as a dean. So in some ways, it's a much more challenging position, honestly. You can't just focus on your classes or your research. Instead, there are lots more meetings, more stakeholders, and it's much more political in nature. And so what I try to think about is, how can I use meetings, stakeholders, and politics to my advantage by getting others on board to help me fulfill some of these same annual goals and objectives? Another thing that you want to keep in mind is that with greater responsibility comes less control. So when I became dean, I discovered that my position was the opposite of what I had envisioned it to be, or even some faculty members envision it to be right now. I don't actually have a whole lot of control over certain things like the course schedule, beyond just suggesting a few minor changes here and there, and perhaps the occasional gaffe. But in the eyes of those above me, it's my responsibility to create the schedule, and the gaffes that go with it, those are on me. So there are those sorts of issues along the way as well. Also, your identity is no longer of a faculty member. And so as a manager or in management or administration, it's very different than being having an identity of a faculty person. So all of those things change. And again, I was not allowed to teach my first year here, so I'm going to start teaching this coming summer, even though I would have liked to. And so my evaluations are not how good of a teacher or researcher I am, but instead how good of a job did I do collectively as a team towards accomplishing numerous initiatives. So that's one point of change as well. And in many ways that impacted the ways in which my colleagues view me. So even if they might like me personally, for instance, in their eyes, I'm still an administrator at the end of the day. And sometimes that is through the lens of he's an outsider, if you will. And so one of the main difficulties as dean is being kind of caught in the middle between faculty members and upper administration. Another thing of consideration is that I have to worry about the money, right? So that's one of the most significant differences between being faculty or being dean. Being dean, you're always trying to figure out where the money's going to come from, and that's sort of a constant thing in motion. And deans are often responsible for all sorts of funding matters, again, at the school or the college level. And everyone from department chairs to administrative staff is always trying to vie and jockey for their space within that budget. And so as they ask me for more money, I'm constantly asking those up above the chain, as well as outside donors, for additional funds. And that's another point of a difference as well, is the fundraising element, right? So I have to raise X number of dollars per year by leaning on community and alumni to be able to support, again, these initiatives that we feel are most important, as well as scholarships for future students alike. And so whether or not I'm asking donors or asking the provost for more funds, more or less my hand is always out asking for some kind of offering. And I think faculty don't always fully understand that aspect of that deans actually have to go through these processes to try to procure funds and how it can at times be somewhat exhausting. So those are just a few of the things to think about if you're considering becoming a dean in the near future, or even if you're just a faculty member thinking about your dean and some of the challenges and the opportunities that person is permitted to do in that particular role. It's an incredibly fulfilling profession, and I think new levels of success are made possible through outreach. And again, that can be accomplished through cultivating a leadership team that will allow you to be incredibly supported during your time as dean of a school or a college. I hope that was somewhat helpful to learn a little bit more about what it means to be a dean today in higher education. Take care.